Hi everyone and welcome back. Where do I even begin? I have not been on this channel doing this type of video for a very long time. And I think the past year or so was just one gigantic existential crisis where I was really trying to figure out what to do with my life, and in line with that, what to do with the different online spaces that I had. So I kind of dabbled in everything, like doing a podcast, interviewing people, hosting, of course, still writing. I actually got my first full length collection of poetry published last year under Grana Books, and it was really a crazy experience because my collection also won the National Book Development Board publication grant. So I was super duper excited about that, but then all of these other things were happening, and once the dust settled after everything, something that I realized about myself is career stuff or like work stuff already takes up so much of my time and my space, and whatever other space I have on the internet, I just really want to dedicate it to creativity, books, literature, all of that. So moving forward on this channel, it will mostly be vlogs and stuff like this. So back to the bookish videos. If by some chance you're here from my podcast, don't worry, I'll be creating a separate like Instagram page for that and YouTube page for that so that you guys kind of have a place to go. So anyway, first things first, let me show you my poetry collection. So this came out almost exactly a year ago, and I can't believe I didn't really update here about it, but I think I posted on Instagram. So it has two covers, but the first cover is sold out. So this is the one that I can show. I didn't think, honestly, that it was something that any of the mainstream presses would want. And Grana Books is an indie press, but it's an indie press that's very kind of niche. I think of them kind of like Fitzcarraldo for international presses. And yeah, I'm very, very proud of it. The paper is gorgeous. Basically, what my poetry collection is about is how romance can also be formulaic, and how our conceptions of love, beauty, desire kind of heavily rely on the film or the media that we have consumed growing up. And a lot of the images from here are kind of inspired by or derived from the ekphrastic object, which was Nora Honor's three romantic comedies. So, yeah. Okay, that could be a whole other video in itself, so I won't ramble on. So, I read a lot in November. I was hungry like for literature, for books to feed that creative spirit, and I had been reading a lot actually since June as well, but I just didn't have enough space to create something like this. So, yeah, this is the first time where I really felt like, oh my gosh, like I can talk about books in this way again. So, last July, I got into Akotar, or A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And I know what you're thinking. Like, Weena, don't you normally read more literary books? And yes, that is true, but I also love me a good romantasy, a good fantasy, and the mass verse just sucked me in like crazy. So I had read the first three books in the Akotar series spread over July, August, September. And then in November, I decided to pick up the fourth book, which is A Court of Frost and Starlight. So this is basically kind of a transition book slash the Christmas special of the Akotar series. It bridges the first three books, which were told from Farah's point of view, and the following books, which I understand will be more focused on other characters. And this takes place during their Yuletide, or basically like their Christmas celebration, and it features a lot of the characters kind of going through holiday preparations, but also a lot of characters sort of dealing with the aftermath of the war. It was just like a warm, cozy type of read. Although I will say that as far as actual writing or storytelling goes, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best. There were a lot of things that were kind of abrupt and kind of jarring, like what happened with Nesta. There was no intro to why she was suddenly behaving that way, why the dynamic with Cassian was suddenly that way, but we kind of got to it in the end. I also could not, for the life of me, stand Farah in this book, and this leads me down the rabbit hole of what I keep telling people, where I am a big believer of fantasy doing better when told from third person, at least third person limited, because the first three books were told from Farah's point of view. And of course, that gives you kind of blind spots in the narration. And when you see her from a more detached point of view, or if you see her somewhere like this, you kind of remember that Farah is technically like 21 years old or something like that. Anyway, I gave this book 2.75 out of 5 stars because it wasn't necessarily bad, and I understand why it kind of exists within the series of books. And I also read the acknowledgments, and I know that Sarah J. Maas kind of needed this for her own type of escapism because she was going through a rough patch at the time, so fine. I get it. It's not the best, but I get it. I'm still happy that I read it. After that, I picked up the fifth book. So this is the latest book in the Akotar series. This is A Court of Silver Flames. And yeah, that's right. It's an open series. It's not finished yet. In this book, we focus more on Cassian and Nesta. So it's more of their story. And I know that a lot of people don't really like this book, but I freaking loved it. Honestly, I think from a storytelling, from a writing, from a more literary point of view, this is kind of the best one of all of the Akotar books. And it's told in third person, and it flips between kind of third person limited, following Nesta, following Cassian, following some of the characters. And it's the most balanced that I've kind of felt the world of Akotar be, because previously, I swear, everything was like, Farah centric. And here, I just freaking loved it. I loved like Nesta's character arc. I loved her relationship with the house. I love the way that everything was kind of described. It was great. It was great. And if you're the kind of person who likes like playful banter and likes stories about also like girlhood and making friends and stuff like that, I think you will love this book. One of the main characters in this book is also a house. So in the book, Nesta kind of gets sent to one of the houses in Velaris to recover and, kind of get over her trauma from the war and stop her bad behavior. And the house is sentient. So it's really fun. That's like one of the things I enjoyed the most about it. I will say that this book has a lot of spice in it. So I've read some reviews where people are like, oh my gosh, like they are just doing it all over the place. Every single chapter, there's something. And I will say that is true. So if you don't like a lot of spice in your soup, maybe this is not for you. But personally, I could kind of see how it fit into the story, just given the personalities of the characters involved. I think one of the reasons why there was so much spice in this is because it starts with a friends with benefits kind of situation. And I think it was there primarily to flesh out the difference between, boning and like making love or whatever. Anyway, I liked it quite a lot. I gave it 3.75 out of 5 stars. And I think it's my favorite so far in the Akotar series. So I hope that when book 6 comes out, I hope it's really good. After that, I decided to go with something a little bit more literary, a little bit something that I would pick up on a normal day, and this is Intermezzo by my love, Sally Rooney. So I have read almost everything that Sally Rooney has put out so far. I read Conversations with Friends, Normal People, and Beautiful World, Where Are You? And I can say 100% this is her best work yet. Okay, so first, what this book is about. This book is about two brothers, Peter and Ivan, and how they kind of cope with their relationship and with their family dynamic the year after their father has died. So it kind of follows them from the funeral up until around a year later, and it also follows their entanglements, like emotionally and in love, and also fleshing out that relationship between brothers, how you evolve from like seeing someone as a kid and seeing someone as an adult or treating them as an equal. My description doesn't do it justice, but this book was so freaking good. If you've ever read a Sally Rooney book before where you kind of felt like her characters were being too self indulgent or were being kind of annoying, or her style didn't quite lend perfectly to what that book was about because it kind of dragged down what would have been, a more interesting dynamic. This book is perfect for her writing style. I keep telling people that I think this is like the balance that Sally Rooney has been trying to strike in all of her other books. It was so good. It does start off kind of slow, but I think that just is the way that Sally Rooney writes. She's not a very plot driven kind of author. Like, usually she writes in a way where the focus is more inward. It's more on the psyche, the relationships of the person, their desires, the things that they're thinking about. Once you're in it, you're in it. I think by the second chapter, once we get to Ivan, like the younger brother's part, I was sold. I could not put this thing down. I think I finished it in like 3 days, and it's pretty thick. I think this is like 500 pages or almost 500 pages. So, yeah, this was my 5-star read of the month. So, check it out. Even if you have not liked any Sally Rooney so far, like I was thinking of my friend Austere, who I previously lent Normal People and Beautiful World, Where Are You to, and he couldn't get through them. He said that he hated the characters so much, but this I think I would 100% recommend to him. So even if you did not like Sally Rooney's work in the past, or if you were kind of dissatisfied with what you read from her, give this a try. I promise it will be worth it. After the kind of doom and gloom and very melancholic world of Sally Rooney, I was craving something a little more fast paced again. So I picked up another series from Sarah J. Maas, and this is book one of the Crescent City series. This is House of Earth and Blood. And all I can say is there must be completely different editing teams for Akotar and Crescent City, because the language in this flowed so much better. There were some annoying like typos and stuff, and like odd phrasing or like awkward structure in all of the Akotar books. But in this one, wow, smooth, silky prose, at least relative to SJM. And I love the world of this. It's set in a world where it's kind of more modern, like magic and technology function side by side. And it was really nice also seeing different magical species as well. Like, there are archangels in this, there are werewolves, there are vampires, there are mer people, and it was so nice to not just see like a juxtaposition between, oh, human and fae. And in Akotar, sure, like there are also other species, but they're always like monsters. They're like the bog and stuff like that. But here, it was so freaking good. And the format of this is, it's like a mystery. It's like a murder mystery. And the main character, Bryce, she is so cool. She is so cool. If in Akotar I spent a lot of time like being annoyed with Farah, I rooted for Bryce 100% of the way. She's sassy, she's smart, she is just amazing. And she doesn't do that whole like, I'm just a human kind of thing that I find so annoying in a lot of like romantasy. I freaking cried chapters 90 to 94, just so good. And the friendships in this as well are really, really Well done. Really, really great. I'm reading the second book now, so I'll tell you how it goes, but so far, so good. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And that leads me to the last book that I read in November, and that is Didion and Babbitts by Lily Anolik. I read this on my Kindle, and this was kind of an anticlimactic read for me. I'd been saving it as my last read of the month because I knew that I would devour it. I'm a huge fan of both Joan Didion and Eve Babbitt, so I was really looking forward to hearing about both of their bodies of work, hearing about their dynamic, because for those of you guys who may not be in yet on the literary chica, um, they kind of had a strained friendship where they were friends, but they were also kind of jealous of each other, or there was some friction there in terms of their literary careers and like how they went about things. And the premise of this, like the way that they made it sound when they were promoting it, was like, oh, we'd be able to read some of like the letters between them, the correspondences, and we'd find out more about how their work was intertwined and why that fraught connection like meant so much in the greater scheme of their literary body of work. This book, I kid you not, was just the biographer pitting two amazing women against each other, which I freaking hated. At the beginning, she already tells us that she is biased toward Eve Babbitts, and you know what? Fine, right? Like all writers have their biases. But I really, really despise the way that she basically just used Joan Didion here, number one, for press, because she knew that a lot of people want to read about Joan Didion, and second, as like someone to bring down. Like she was basically just trying to say like, "Oh, you like Joan Didion? Like she's so great. Well, guess what?" And I really freaking hate that because what are you talking about? Like, everyone has their own personal life. Like Joan Didion, the writer, obviously cannot be correlated 100% with like Joan Didion, the person. And it was just like a really messily written, very like snarky and not even good snarky kind of book. I honestly thought I was gonna DNF it, but by that point, like I was already 80% through it, so I just pushed through until the end. And yeah, don't read it. I don't think I would ever pick up anything by Lily Anolik ever again. I gave this like 1.75 stars, and the 1.75 is because there are a lot of direct quotes also from Eve and from Joan, and I loved reading from both of them. And sorry, I thought I was done, but I'm not. Just like something that she did here was she like dug up all of Joan's like ex-lovers or whatever, or like her one main ex-lover, and she interviewed him, and I'm like it just felt so unfair. Like you would interview this guy and you're not gonna interview Joan because of course this is coming out like after she passed away, and I don't know. It just felt to me like someone writing without the balls to actually face like what they're writing about. So anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. That's all for now. And yeah, follow me on Instagram if you want to keep up and more like day-to-day reading updates and stuff like that. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.